Hello, my name is Kirsten Cloyd, and today I will be teaching you how to grow your own vegetable garden. This is a picture of my family garden back home. This is about in mid-July, I would say, when it's fully grown and you're harvesting. I am an animal science major, not a plant science major. However, I do have about a lifetime of experience of growing, picking, harvesting, and canning all kinds of vegetables and fruit as well. My objectives today is to explain to you how to plant vegetable seeds in rows throughout the garden. Outdoors, we're going to start them outdoors and not inside. You can start seeds inside for some vegetables, that is recommended. And we're going to emphasize the importance of planting your own vegetable garden and demonstrate by the end of this you're going to be able to plant. It's not too hard. So how do we get started? Before you want to start anything, you want to gather all of your tools and equipment and your seeds, of course. Next, you want to learn about what kind of seeds you're planting because many of them have different conditions with the soil in which they will germinate. Next, you want to select your site. I tend to think that this is the most important step of the procedure because without a proper site, your seeds just simply won't grow. Next, we're going to prepare the soil and make sure it's nice and fertile and free of weeds. After that, we're going to disperse our seeds, water the soil, cover them with some dirt, and water again. Alright, now before we ever begin, gathering your tools might be a small investment on your part if you are a beginning gardener. We want to start with a spade, and that is the green one right there. And then a hoe is the yellow one. A rake, there's two different kinds here. I tend to prefer the second one though, just for getting weeds and debris out of the garden. You also want to make sure you have a watering hose, something that sprays a gentle stream over the garden so you aren't disrupting too much of the soil. Also, you want to have a source for that water, so maybe next to a house or anything. Our garden back home, we actually don't use a watering hose at all. We just kind of let the rain take care of it. And vegetables may die, but it's okay. It's a lots of benefit. Next, gloves are optional. But, however, if anyone has ever worked in a garden before, you know that you can get blisters from your tools. So I definitely recommend some nice garden gloves, especially for women's hands. It's a little softer. But next are seeds. I'm going to be planting today some cilantro for you. It is an herb, not quite a vegetable, or I suppose it is technically. But I like the size of the seeds, so we'll be planting that one. Other vegetables I have are radishes, lettuce, kohlrabi, peas, and some watermelon for you, and I'll let you take a look at these later. And lastly, I'm going to pick a nice piece of land. Alright, so know your seeds. How are they going to germinate, and what conditions are they going to germinate best? First of all, temperature is very important. Most seeds germinate at around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, moisture levels of the soil is also very important. You don't want it too damp or too dry. Sunlight exposure is also extremely important. You want to make sure they get around 8 hours of sunlight throughout the day. Location is also another thing, and soil quality. You want the pH to be just right. Now you can find all of this information on the back of these seed packets actually. So for example, for this lettuce one, it says, let's see, sun or shade, you want it in full sun. It matures at 50-60 days. It's directly, you can directly sow it in early spring or in late summer. So I will hand some of these around so that you can take a look at the packets and check out the back of them. Okay, and next we're going to select our site. Usually we're going to plant in mid-spring to early summer if we are in Missouri or back home in Illinois where I'm at. We want soil temperature to be around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. You can use a garden thermometer to test the soil if you'd like, but usually if you know that the temperature outside is a solid 60-70s range for a couple weeks, then your soil is probably going to be great. Next, we want to make sure abundant sunshine. Again, we want that 8 hours of sunshine to happen throughout the plant's minimum. We want to make sure that the land drains the water well and the soil is properly fertilized. I put this picture of my garden again here because I think it is a great location for a garden. And these rows are actually planted from north to south so that you get full sunlight exposure as possible on those plants. Also, the only problem I do have with this garden is that it is right directly next to a soybean field, as it was this summer. I tend to not like it there because the chemicals that my dad puts on that field could drift over. No matter how much he says that they don't, I still believe that some of them drift over to the garden this summer. So again, try to be aware of your surroundings with chemicals on that. Okay, then we're going to prepare our soil. So this is where we're going to get a little dirty on this one. We're going to start tilling. You can use a rototiller like this one here, or your typical tools like a hoe or a spade can also do the work. It's a little bit more work. Typically for a small area, maybe like the size of this room, probably more rototiller actually, but a smaller garden can be handled with tools. We're going to pull all the weeds from that if you can, and then use a rake to kind of clear that debris. And you want to make sure that we don't have any clumps or anything. So in here, there's a few little clumps in here. You just want to break them up. So at the end game, we want our soil to be fine, warm, and moist before we do plant any seeds in here. And also fertilize if necessary. I'm not going to go too much into that because that's a whole other slide here. But you can buy soil test kits at any farm and home store. I'm sure that they will have them, and test the pH of your soil and nutrient levels. All right, now we're going to get into actually dispersing our seeds. The first step here I have is digging a furrow. Now a furrow is just kind of a place in the soil where you're going to put your seeds. You can use a cane or a pole or your hoe or anything and draw a line. I have some scissors here, so I'm just going to use them and kind of just dig a straight line through here. I chose this picture on that one because this shows a good method of keeping your lines very straight. So use a string, you can tie it on one stick, one end, and stick at the other end and keep your rows nice and straight. I know a lot of gardeners are pretty picky about that. Let's see, today we will be planting some cilantro, as I said. And you might actually don't want gloves on for this part, I suppose, because the seeds can be kind of small at times. Now, if your seeds are bigger, like beans or watermelon or squash, it says on the back of the packet how far apart you want to plant them, usually about an inch or so. This one it said seed spacing 6 to 12 inches. Well, this is the big cilantro, so these plants will be very large, so we'll have to put them farther apart. So I'm not going to put very many in here for cilantro, but again, you just put it down in the furrow, and the depth of this furrow is also very important. This one says 1/4 of an inch, so not too big. This one right here, these are beans or some type of legumes, I'm guessing, so that this furrow is probably 2 inches deep. Usually for your smaller seeds, you want to thinly scatter in the furrow. And this is also a good point to label your rows. So once you cover them with that soil, I don't know what you're going to be planting with them. All right. At this point, we're going to want to gently water them while the furrow is open. I don't know if you guys can see that very well there. Just so that you make sure that these seeds have some water contact on them. I'll only do this if your soil is dry to begin with. This soil right here is actually pretty moist, so I would water at the moment. After that, we're going to cover the seeds and gently pat down. Make sure that soil is firm but not compacted. You want to make sure the oxygen can get down in there with them. Okay. And after this, we're going to give the whole garden a nice good watering. I was going to have a spray bottle in here to show you, but I'm afraid I might spray some of you, so didn't get that far. But again, this is a good point to water, and a gentle stream like that is the best bet. All right, now it's your time to get involved. I want everyone to take out a piece of paper and a pencil of yours, and I want you to draw your dream garden. Make sure you include your tools and equipment. Shovel, spade, anything you think you might need. I want you to pick out your seeds. You can use some of the examples that I passed around. Also, the biggest part here is site location. Now you can put in, make sure you got a little sunshine in there, you have trees, and show the shade is, which way is north. That's a very important part. And then make sure you have clear debris of the soil and nice and fertile. And which direction your rows are going to go in. And then you can pick whatever kind of vegetables you'd like to put in. Also, during this time, if there are any questions, I can I've been eating a lot of kale recently, so I've been trying to grow it in my apartment. But I tried to buy growing trays at the farm home store, but this is not a good time to buy growing trays or anything seed-wise, so go to the more specialty store for that. Yeah.
What's the easiest thing to grow, do you think, as a starter?
Right, easiest, I would say like carrots or some of these seeds you gotta plant indoors, like tomatoes I recommend starting indoors, peppers, they're kind of harder to grow. Another one if you're like more, I don't know, but like lettuce and stuff like that, you can pretty much toss it out there, it'll grow like grass.
Is there anything you haven't been able to grow?
Well, back home, we've had trouble with our tomatoes because it's been pretty damp the past couple summers, or too dry for them, and they're pretty finicky with that, so. And eggplants, actually we've got a pretty good eggplant crop, so it's not much of a problem, but tomatoes are a hard one because the frost gets to them in the spring, and it gets too dry in summer, or too wet. And these here, I think this is like turnip right here, I would guess, and some lettuce. And then I was trying to figure out what these yellow flowers were. I wasn't sure. Does anyone know?
Well, I have a different question.
Okay.
Would rocky soil not be very good for a garden?
Well, rocky soil, I'm not an expert on the soil, to be honest. That's another part of it I don't quite know. But I'm guessing you don't want a lot of rocks in your garden, I would say. Just because of the tools, it'll wear down your tools first off. And but the soil quality in Missouri is very similar to Illinois, so we have very nice, fertile black soil. Okay, does everyone want to show up the gardens?
No, shoot.
Anyone ready? No? Again, this is the one from my, around July, we were taking green beans at that time. Okay, well, if there's no further questions and nobody wants to show, then I believe we're wrapping up now. Oh, okay, we got one.
It does not quite.
Oh, you got a tractor in there, even, so yeah, this is big. Okay.
That's supposed to be the river.
Yeah, I got a little stream here, nice and flat ground. Doing good. I'll get this back to you. You can go ahead and frame that. Okay, well, thank you very much.